Here we go. We locked and loading. All right. All right. All right. All right. We're gonna give everybody a couple seconds to jump in. As soon as everybody jumps in, then we'll officially start. Peace, 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 shalom to everyone that is here. Um, we have a very, very powerful interview for you guys this evening. Tonight's interview, we'll be talking about the true origins of Christmas. I have a special guest with me who'll be sharing a lot of in-depth information on this topic that I think you guys would benefit from greatly. And let me segue this really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, we got a very powerful interview planned this evening for you guys. Just gonna wait on more people to jump in the room. As soon as we have enough of our family here, we're gonna get started. As we approach the season of Christmas, the conscious community, as hard as we bang on Western traditions, there's gonna be a lot of people in the conscious community, bar none, going out and buying Christmas gifts. This is a fact. It happens year after year. I live in one of the major cities in this country, New York, and I constantly bump into people. You wouldn't imagine, you wouldn't even believe some of the faces in the conscious community that I literally seen with Christmas gifts. I'm keeping it all the way trail, all the way real, and as much flack as Israelites tend to get at times for our doctrine, the reality is the Israelite community seems to be holding down true consciousness in more ways than one, because when it comes to all of these holy days that are really not rooted neither in biblical tradition nor in general African tradition, there are a lot of people in the conscious community who tend to still observe it. So that's a great hypocrisy. I came across a video a couple of years ago of a sister online, and she had an interview with Dr. Phil. That's the sister that's here today. And the interview was amazing. The interview was absolutely amazing. I mean, the sister did her thing, and she did her thing so much so that a couple of years later, I finally connected with her on Facebook, and now I've connected with her in person. So we set up this interview tonight for her to talk about some of her origins and how she came to enlightenment. We'll segue at some point and talk about as far as her introduction to the Israelite community, and then eventually we'll make our way to be talking about her interview on Dr. Phil's show. So the first thing that I'm going to do, sisters, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Shelita Gaskins, also known as Princess Judah, 215.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let me ask you a question, sister. I want to go straight into it. A lot of people have seen your video over the years um, of the video that you did on Dr. Phil, but a lot of people who may not have contact with you outside of that video, they may not know where you're at today, and they definitely may not know, where you began yesterday. So I want to first ask you, how long ago was that Dr. Phil interview?
Oh, that was from 2006. So it was quite a bit ago. Yep.
That's 14 years ago.
Wow. I didn't even realize.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe in the video, you said that you came to knowledge that Christmas was wrong 8 years ago.
I'm really bad at basic math. Reading comprehension is good, but basic.
Right. I'm saying when you did the video in 2006, it seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you said in the video that you had been aware that Christmas was wrong for almost 8 years.
I came into the truth around 1998. So, yep, that's about right. Mm-hmm.
Wow. No pun intended, no disrespect intended, but we have another dinosaur in the building. And by dinosaur, I mean someone that has been around truth and enlightenment for a long time. So it's safe to say, sister, that your introduction to consciousness didn't come from YouTube, because there was no YouTube back then.
There was no YouTube. That was
98, right? Nope. I can remember 1998. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. There wasn't even MySpace yet.
No.
So that says a lot, because most people today, their level of consciousness comes from their level of interaction on social media. So that 9 out of 10 times, if people are not active on social media, a lot of them don't even see some of the conscious content or material. So the fact that you come from an era that precedes all of this, to me, really says something about your desire for truth and your desire to learn.
Yep.
And that means a lot. Um, I want the family, before we really go all the way in, I want you guys to thumb up the video, family. Make sure you thumb up the video. Shout out to our brother Divine Prospect. I see you, brother. Thank you very much. Shout out to Sister Tamika. Shout out to Shaka Rock King. Shout out to Lavia. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to everyone that's been tuning in so far. Family, please thumb up the video, and please do us a favor and take that video and put it on your Facebook page. Take that video and put it right on your Facebook page, family. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Deeply appreciate it. All right. So here we go. I think one of the first questions that I'm going to ask you is, first and foremost, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us how you were introduced to consciousness on a whole, and then eventually, I guess, the Israelite community.
Okay. Well, I'm from originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, born and raised. Then right now, currently, I live in Virginia. I've relocated, been living here for about 9 years. I work in the government sector. Also have getting a nonprofit started called a Square Mile Community, where we're going to try to reach back and help the youth learn some basic skills that we didn't know. So I'm really excited about getting that started. As far as my introduction into all of this, I take none of the credit. All praises to the Most High, first of all, but I do want to give credit where it's due to the brothers that was out there putting in that work. I started out with ISUPK. At the time, I believe they were not called ISUPK; they were called ICUPK, right? So it was around 1998. I went and I attended every now and again. I wasn't like an official member, but that's where I got most of my lessons from, listening to those brothers out there putting in the work. Before we had internet, which made it easier. And I heard them out there talking about Black Jesus, and they asked a couple questions, and I started to attend from there. Later on, I'm sure all those who were around during that time remember the Y2K. Well, it was a Y2K prophecy, then it was a year 2000 prophecy within the Hebrew Israelite community that didn't come to fruition. So that kind of broke away the church a little bit, and that's kind of when I left as well, and started to fellowship with some other brothers who had left from there. They're not currently in operation, but they are called Light and Body Church. So I do think that they will be in operation one day. So I keep in contact with them and listen to a couple other brothers now to continue my studies, as well as studying on my own. I'm not sure if I answered all the questions.
Nice. I appreciate that. So I want to say shout out to ISUPK. There's a lot of people who are familiar with them, and when that name comes up, obviously because it's such a well-known name, it's going to evoke controversy. One of the things that I love to admit about that group, regardless of any differences of opinions that I may have with them in terms of doctrine or dogma, is that regardless of our differences, people have to respect what's called street work and field work. And the reality is, a lot of people feel comfortable critiquing from the recesses of their home, comfortability of swinging that chair to the left and to the right while banging on the keyboard. But how many people are really willing to sacrifice major parts of their day, their week, and their lives to be on those streets speaking to our people? And most of us know the reality is we are a beautiful people, but as beautiful as we are is as ugly as we can be as well. It's not easy to be on those corners speaking truth to our people. It's not easy to be standing in front of a major department store and watch our people, vaingloriously shopping on Black Friday and Thanksgiving and, for Christmas and Easter, and having to tell them, come out of her. And by come out of her, we mean come out of Babylon. Come out of that Babylonian mentality. Come out of that which is not conducive towards the advancement of our community. So I give those brothers tremendous respect because I live in New York City, which is, the hub for ISUPK. It's where they began. And from the time that I awakened to these truths in the year 1994 till now, I've always been exposed to them. I've always seen them. And there's times that before I was well known in the community that I would, walk and look at some of their camps, some of their setups, and I listen to them. And I noticed that it takes a lot to stand on these corners and speak truth to power. These brothers are speaking to everyone. When the cops walk by, they remind the cops that you ain't shit either. I'm just keeping it all the way real. And I think that that has to be respected. That has to be embraced by us because as much as we talk about different intellectual factions throughout the conscious community, the reality is some of these groups really will put 10 toes down on the ground to defend your mother and your father if need be. And for me, that's where it's really at. Because a lot of people are good at talking, and a lot of people simply just talk. But I'm for people that's ready to work. Just before we open up tonight's YouTube, me and you were talking behind the scenes, and you were introducing me to Hamilton. And you said that it speaks of revolution. And one of the things you said about revolution is that we can't actually have a revolution if we're not willing to roll our sleeves up, get dirty, and fight. And sad but true, there's a lot of people that can talk well, but will not roll them sleeves up, get dirty, and fight. To me, the true warriors of consciousness are those that are willing to defend it, not just by word, but by deed. So again, saying all that to say, I have tremendous respect for that group known as ISUPK. I have tremendous respect for them. Second question I want to ask you is, most people are probably going to wonder, first and foremost, how did you even get to be on Dr. Phil? Did you call in? Did they seek you out? How did that work?
Well, the internet was kind of new. So what I did was I was just sending emails to various shows like Oprah Winfrey Show, Dr. Phil Show, a couple other shows that was out, just to try to get on. It wasn't necessarily to talk about Christmas or whatever, but I came across that show topic. It was called "Is This Normal?" The clip that's going around on the internet, it's about 3 minutes long. That's actually just somebody took the video and just made it smaller. So the actual video, whole interview is actually like 8 minutes long, and the show is called "Is This Normal?" And I knew when I went on there that I didn't intend to actually get Dr. Phil's help. The purpose of me doing it is because I knew that if I went on there to talk about this subject, that like millions of people would hear it. I didn't need his help. I didn't want his advice. I already knew what he was going to say. I bought all of my books, but I did not even study to refresh it because I just kind of treated it like I'm talking to a regular person. And I sent the email and they responded. And yeah, they flew me out there.
I want to say this. There's a lot of people that mail into talk shows, a lot of people that reach out, and a lot of people don't get to be on them. I've since being on this truth, I've always tried to get on the major talk shows. I remember years ago seeing various factions of ISUPK on the Donahue show. And I was like, yo, I gotta get on there. You know what I mean? Because I'm just as nice with the truth. I just need a stage. So I think the fact that you were able to make it through those doors, speak to what we call destiny. That moment in time was meant to be, or as we would say, it was written and engraved.
Mm-hmm.
It was by
That's right.
divine design because my sister, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but I want to say this to you. I've said this to you privately before, but I want to say this to you publicly. What you did on Dr. Phil was monumental. And there's a legacy in the work that you did that day. And that's
Wow.
nothing cliche. I'm not trying to brown nose, but I want you to know from a brother to a sister in the community, you are deeply respected for what you did. When I watch different social media outlets react to your video, do you know your video has over 8 million views?
Wow.
When you go through the different lines of social media,
Yeah.
when you add Facebook, Instagram, your video is on TikTok. I'm not sure if you know that yet.
No, oh my
It's
goodness.
circulating also on TikTok. So you literally broke the internet with that video, my sister.
Wow.
And
Well, if I,
mind you, I also want to say a lot of us are taught that what white people in this country may have on black people is access to education. Because what we know is that access to education provides anyone with a head start, as it were. And I don't know your educational background, but we all know that Dr. Phil is a doctor. He's a PhD holder. But I want to say this to you in the most endearing way. We couldn't tell when he was sitting down with you. We couldn't tell who held the PhD. So kudos to you, my sister. We definitely want to give you that round of applause.
Thank you. Humble. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Second question I want to ask you is this. So you're on Dr. Phil's show. Is there anybody on the show that what's the overall topic of the show and how do we eventually get to you?
Okay, so the topic was, is this normal? And there was other segments on there that came before mine. For whatever reason, mine wasn't even aired on the commercial segment, which I thought was a disservice because something like why you don't celebrate Christmas is very controversial. And I do think that if they would have, showed that, then more people would have tuned in. But you can't see it on any of the commercials that came on. But one couple was on there, like he was like a bar owner and always played practical jokes, like on his clients or something like that. I don't know. They were really not that memorable, to be honest. Another one, she was like a hypochondriac, always looking up medical diagnosis and thinking something's wrong with her. So my topic was absolutely like not related at all to this, and I was actually afraid that they wouldn't even air it. But they did. Yep. So they fit me in on, is this normal?
So I mean, to add to the hysteria of all of this, your topic is not even the general topic of the show.
No.
Your topic is barely a segment within the show segment, and you still was able to get through and speak your truth. So, about how long did your one-on-one with Dr. Phil last?
Totally without edits, probably about a good 15 minutes.
A good 15
Yeah.
minutes.
And you guys missed a lot of comments that were made from the audience and different things. A lot of that was missed. Like when I made the comment, if Christ was around, he would totally and completely disagree with these celebrations. You probably see the white lady. She's a little chubby white lady with a little short haircut. She said, "Well, how do you know?" Right? She yelled it out in the audience. How do you know? So I said, "Because I can read." And then there was another segment where one black lady, she did clap for me. Out of everyone, she clapped, and I was like, "Thank you, my sister." But they edited all that stuff out.
Right. So let me throw this one at you. So you're on the Dr. Phil show. You're finally giving your moment. You're giving your time to shine. The stage is on you. What's going through your mind in that moment? It's your time to speak. Let us know how that moment feels because you were on a major world stage. How does that moment feel?
Well, to be honest, I'm not one that's like easily starstruck. So
Okay.
it feels the same like as it does right now. Being on with you, I'm a little nervous, palms are sweaty, hoping I'm not talking too fast, hoping I get my point across. I'm not impressed by celebrities. I mean, it's probably like one celebrity I'll be excited about, but I'm not impressed. I even saw Dr. Phil after the fact, and he gave me a look like he was waiting for me to like be all starstruck. Hey, Dr. Phil. And I just looked and smiled, and he just turned back around. Yep.
Nice, nice. So if you can remember, I know this was many years ago, but to the best of your memory, bring us back to the moment where the dialogue begins. What are some of the questions that you remember him asking you offhand? And if you can, share with us some of your responses.
Okay, let's see if I can remember. I do remember sitting in the audience waiting for my turn, being really nervous, thinking of different things to say. What should I say, what not to say? But as he began to ask the questions, it starts off, what you don't see in that little short clip, it starts off with the whole narrative of Dear Dr. Phil, please help me, this whole thing. They wrote all that. I was not actually seeking his help. So anyone who watches the full video, just know that that part in the beginning is actually the producers writing that. They had me in the sound booth for a good hour because apparently I have an accent. And when I said the word pagan, everyone started to laugh. And I'm like, why are they laughing? Because I said pagan. So they said, say that word again. I'm like, pagan. And everyone laughed again. I'm like, okay. So apparently there's an accent there when I say pagan.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. I know you're still waiting, but did they prep you in terms of what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say? Or you were given freedom to express yourself so long as obviously you're not vulgar on national TV?
They didn't even say don't be vulgar. They said, say everything you want to say, ask every question you want to say, because this is your time.
Wow. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so the spotlight is on you. The topic is Christmas. Dr. Phil asked you, why is it that you don't celebrate Christmas? For anybody in the listening audience right now who might have never seen your interview, I want you to kind of answer that question in real time for us.
Yep.
Why do you think Christmas is wrong to observe? Keeping in mind, many of us, regardless of our enlightenment and our consciousness, many of us come from families where the majority of our families are practicing these things. Many of us still get phone calls around these times. Many of us get family members that want to meet up around this time. So, why is Christmas wrong? And why is it important, more importantly, to be proactive in your home to teach your children that it's wrong, and proactive in the community to teach the community that it's wrong?
Okay. Sorry, I just don't want to miss out any other questions. So the first question was,
Why is
why do?
Christmas wrong?
Okay, so yeah, once I learned the information from the brothers, I don't always just take people's word. I do research myself. So this was before the internet, like we were talking about before, and I did my own research. And this is before the internet, and we had books stacked high before, the old school way of actually researching things. And I was just astonished. Like I instantly saw it. I was like, wow, we've been lied to. And it kind of started to click for me because when I was a child, I remember asking these questions like, well, what does this have to do with Christ? What does this have to do with Jesus? And they could never answer. Like in my church, they would say that they mix the words up that Santa is Satan. So I said, okay, we know Santa's Satan. So why are we still taking pictures with him and putting up pictures? Oh, we do it for the kids. And mind you, I was like 8 asking these questions, like, and the answers the adults gave me, I was never satisfied. So when I began to read the information, it was like instantly I was able to, oh, this is why I've been asking these questions. This is wicked. It's not just wrong, it's flat out wicked and evil. Like it's not just a day. It's literally I didn't get all into this on Dr. Phil because I don't think I knew all of the elements. I just knew that it was a pagan celebration, worshiping the god Nimrod, a false god Nimrod, even going even further back. If you want to go back to Babylonia, it goes further back than that. And we should not be doing it because we've been deceived. As I began to learn more, I began to learn about the child sacrifices, how all of those rituals are on their pagan calendar. Every single one is a celebration of theirs, how the earth, how they harness the energy from the earth, harness our energy, with melodies and sounds. And it was just horrific. And I just knew that there was no way that I was going to incorporate this any way whatsoever into my kids' life when I had them. Because at the time I was only 18, so I didn't have children at the time.
Nice, nice, nice. So I think one of the things that people are probably going to ask, and when I say people, I'm talking about those who may not be privy to these truths or these points of interest. Um, what about those who may feel as if, well, I'm somewhat familiar with the pagan origin, but I don't really care about that. I don't I don't celebrate Christmas in a religious sense. I celebrate Christmas more in a social sense. And I've used the holiday as a time to, bring my family together. So basically, in the same vein that Dr. Phil was trying to say, because Dr. Phil, I remember he said to you, well, does it matter that someone in the fourth century coined the term Christmas, gave it its meaning? What about you? Are you allowed to reinterpret it? Are you allowed to give it new meaning? What do you say to someone like that?
Just like I said on the show, you can't turn pus into pudding. Like you can't take something demonic and make up your own story and say now we're doing it for God or doing it for fun. Either way is wrong. And the best way that I would describe that to my family, most people understand that Halloween is wrong, even though they still do it. They at least can understand that we shouldn't be doing Halloween, you know. And I describe it as like you take a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin and you carve it and you say that this is representing Moses in the burning bush, and we're going to put these jack-o'-lanterns up to represent Moses. Like that's a blatant lie. Would you go with that today? So they say, well, no, of course not. I'm same thing. There's no difference, except it's so much time has passed by between when the lie has been made until now. If we were during that time, we would be like, hey, I'm not. We'll treat it just like Halloween. So I try to get them to understand that these holidays are just like Halloween. They're just not as obvious.
Obviously, right, right. I totally agree with you on that. When I heard Dr. Phil, in my opinion, try to throw a little shade at you, because at some point in the dialogue that he's having with you, he literally said, I blatantly disagree with you. What I want to say is this: when it comes to a psychological assessment, it's quite possible that his opinion is strongly to be respected because that's his lane and that's his background. However, Dr. Phil, with all due respect, spirituality is not your lane. Consciousness is not your lane. Spiritual consciousness. None of us know of him to have an expert or an enhanced opinion on spiritual ideas that can be found in anyone's tradition. So when he says that he blatantly disagrees, with all due respect, Dr. Phil, what does that mean to us? It would only have merit if you were considered someone of expertise in this field.
Can I mention something?
Absolutely.
Something that was edited out before he said that. He made the statement that he was just recently named one of the most 100 influential Christians in the nation. So maybe that's why he said that.
Wow. But even that goes to show you the ignorance, because I'm glad you brought that out. So what she's saying, for those who may not have heard, during the interview, there's several parts that got edited out. And one of the parts that got edited out is Dr. Phil essentially saying that he was chosen to be, one of the 100 best Christians in the world. I guess almost probably among celebrities especially. But watch this. Can Christmas be found in the Bible? That's where we have to start, right? If people are saying that they're observing Christmas because of its biblical roots, here's the first question I want to ask you directly. What biblical roots does Christmas have? Whatsoever. Can I ask you that?
They'll just go to the birth of the Messiah scene and incorporate that.
Right. And what I always have said over the years is that, and we have some powerhouses in the building that are very, very strong in the New Testament. We have many Messianic brothers and sisters who are here watching with us as well. And I'm going to tread lightly when I say that, to the best of my knowledge, when Jesus is born, it says that shepherds are grazing in the field. This doesn't take place during the winter months. The land of Israel has essentially two major climates. It's known as the wet season and the dry season. During the dry season, you might find shepherds grazing in the field because it's okay to do so. But during the wet season, you won't find that. The wet season would be a mix between fall and spring, and the dry season would be a mix between spring and summer. And when Jesus is born, the Bible says that shepherds were grazing in the field. So just by that information alone, his birth would not be in the winter months at all. On top of that, the Bible doesn't give you an exact date. But what we do know is many Greco-Roman gods are born on December 25th. That's what we know for a fact. Some people in the conscious community even say some of the Egyptian pantheon is born on December 25th. Now, I haven't seen that in the Egyptian record, and I've actually, undertaken the task of reading the hieroglyphs or going through the Medu Neter, and I haven't encountered it myself, so I don't know if that's true. But what I do know is that it's well documented that most, if not all, of the Greek pantheon and the Roman pantheon, they're born on December 25th. And that date is in perfect parallel with their pagan system, which is based on sun worship. When I say their pagan system, I mean, a lot of us use the term pagan and we throw it around as a blanket term, but pagan simply entails a system of belief that's not popular or an unpopular truth. So in the pagan world, I want to say this to everyone listening. In the pagan world, at a time when the majority of the world was quote unquote pagan, don't you know that our views would be considered pagan?
Yeah.
Our views would have been considered pagan because by definition, a pagan is an unpopular truth or is a very small few, very, very limited dimension of people following a particular practice that the greater majority or the collective masses don't follow. At one time, that would even be us. But obviously, those times have changed. And the lives of various biblical patriarchs have touched the world and inspired the world so much that entire religions were created behind these guys, such as Christianity. But
Mhm.
Christianity has nothing to do with the Bible. Christianity has nothing to do with what we call Christ. Everything that is regarded as Christianity as it is spoon fed to us today, when you take a look at the scriptures, you do not find alignment. And this is the problem. And then many of these holidays, which we're supposed to deem as holy days, we can't find any of them in the Bible.
Mhm.
And that's problematic. My teacher, I have much respect for him, principal of Shema Israel. He would always say, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, is where you can find all the holy days of God. If it's not in there, God ain't sanctioning it. Period.
Mhm.
It's just that simple. If we can't find it in the word of God, it's not sanctioned by God. And for us, while man is able to innovate, while man is able to evolve, even in his ideologies to a certain extent, what we are not allowed to do is put the cart before the horse and dare confront our maker so that our ways become an affront to that which he has set in stone. The Creator made it clear to us that we are to make a difference between how we serve Him and how we're expected to live our life.
Mhm.
We don't move like everyone else, and I guess that's something that Dr. Phil couldn't resonate with because Dr. Phil is a product of an era where people make do with the circumstance and environment they live in, and that's not true consciousness.
Mhm.
That's not true spirituality. We don't simply make do. If something is wrong, we are ready to revolt because true change is born out of revolution. And I want to say in the most sincerest way to many of us, when you spoke on that stage, sister, you might as well have had a black beret and a military outfit because we look like a whole revolutionary on that stage.
Yes,
Because I
that's my
watched
spirit.
as you got several stickers. I watched as all the faces was coming from the comments, and if you can be that fly on the wall for us. We want to know what was the reaction of the audience that we couldn't see. How was the audience contributing to the propaganda that Dr. Phil was trying to sell?
It was basically the little clips that you did see, just more of the same, except for some people were yelling out a couple things. How do you know, or that's wrong, So basically the same shakes of the head, the and you'll see his wife like this, like she's frozen. I can't believe this, and I'm like, why is everyone so uptight? And I'm thinking about like the Muslims and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the other people who don't celebrate this, but yet I'm catching slack for just repeating history. But yeah, they were all the typical responses that I got from my family, from my friends, strangers that I talked about it. I got nothing different what I get from everybody else. Rejection.
Okay. Okay. I want to ask you this. The black people in the audience, were there a significant amount of black people that seem to have, if not at least sided with you, but were very open to hear what you were saying by their body language versus any significant number of blacks that you've seen were kind of like going with the whites just to be against you for the sake of going with white people? Did you observe that? Did you notice that?
Um, to be honest, I kind of
In
had
other
tunnel
words, I'm trying to be nice because it's YouTube.
yes.
Was there black people that was with you? Right? I'm trying to be nice because it's YouTube. So let me just be blunt. I want to know, the people want to know, were there a significant amount of black people that were with you versus a significant amount of black people that was in there cooning?
No, it was probably let's say out of 100 people, maybe 20 of them were black. And that's rough guess. And maybe one, like I said before, the lady she clapped. She clapped for me. It was a solo clap out of everybody, and she was the only one. But I didn't really pay much attention to the audience because I kind of had like a tunnel vision thing going on and look beyond them. Um, but yeah, I do remember that one black sister who did clap for me.
What about after the show? Did anyone have anything to say to you after the show? Anyone from the show that you've seen or noticed?
No, that was it. It was literally in and out. and onto the limo to the airport and back home. So I didn't even really get a chance to talk to him.
Where was it filmed?
Over in Hollywood.
Hollywood. Hollywood, California.
Yes.
Hollywood, California. Wow. Okay. Let me ask you a question. It's been well over 14 years since you've been on Dr. Phil. And my question for you is, what are some of the comments that you do get from people who notice you in the street and say, "Hey, aren't you that sister from Dr. Phil?" Or maybe somebody on social media, "Hey, you look familiar. Where have I seen you before? Oh, you was on Dr. Phil." How has that been for you over the years?
Um, well, every year around this time it gets more, more activity coming through, but I look different on the street usually because I usually just look more frumpy. So people probably don't even notice me. But online, people find me and they'll inbox me all the time, and it's kind of weird, but I don't like for people to, oh, thank you, sister, or whatever. It's just weird. But they were just, saying thank you for doing that, and oh, I admire you. And finally someone brought the truth out. And speaking on comments, even after the show, Dr. Phil had a blog on his page, and out of like 20,000 comments, because I was watching them from the very beginning, follow, like more than half were from actual pagans who was like, "Thank you for telling the Christians that they stole our days." Like
Mm.
it was so many. They was like, "Yes, this is our day. I put a skull on top of my tree. That's how we do it." Like, and I was like,
Wow.
"Told y'all."
Wow.
Hmm.
So the proof is in the pudding. If you can have people, from the very community that you're calling out, agreeing and saying this is our tradition, why has Christianity jacked it? Then obviously you were speaking the truth.
Yep, I was shocked
Obviously.
at that amount. Yep.
And that's something that a lot of people don't know. Like, we hear about mistletoe being topped at the tree, and the reality is in some circles, people really, really place skulls at the top of the tree in some circles. Is this diffused throughout the world? I don't think so. Did it happen? Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when we talk about the roots of Christmas, the ultimate root of Christmas, and I'm going to share this video on my Facebook and on my other social media platforms when we come off live. But even Farrakhan discussed this a couple of years ago, and we know this well as Bible believers that the origin of Christmas comes from the deification of Nimrod. Nimrod, upon dying, the biblical Nimrod, upon dying, was made a god, a patron god of many of the people who were subject either to his rule or to his name. They were aware of him and his walk. And whether or not people take Nimrod to be a historical character, that's not my argument nor my contention. But the reality is, most genuine academic research traces back the origin of Christmas as a celebration to the deification of Nimrod when Nimrod was made a god. It was part of the Mesopotamian, I want to say, myth or mythos that Nimrod was born on December 25th, or that he was born during the time of the winter equinox. This is very important because, as we know, Christmas as a celebration comes directly after the winter equinox, but right at the point where the sun begins to move 1 degree in the ascent, right? Because remember, the sun is dropping from the end of the summer solstice all the way to the winter solstice. The sun is dropping degrees at a time. By the time we get to December 21st, it's still dropping. By the time we get to December 25th, it goes up 1 degree. And this we learn, from science. And that scientific reality is in concert with the pagan mythos. The
Mm-hmm.
pagan mythos believed in the ancient world that many of the sun gods were promised to rise, were promised to spring forth, were promised to rise again, or promised to live again. And this is borne out in the ancient world. There are some people who believe that that's a reflection of some of the walk of the Messiah to come, except of obviously in a more affront, as an affront Messiah's walk or as a mockery to the Messiah's walk. But
Mhm.
regardless of your spiritual views, we know for a certainty that when you look at the worship of Nimrod, as we can find it in Mesopotamia first, we have all the telltale signs of not just the day of Christmas, but also the Christmas tree.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that's something that we don't talk about a lot. So if you can, most people who are Bible believers, they want to they want to go to the Bible to substantiate why something is right or why something is wrong. So I want to ask you this question because I'm sure people want to know if the sister really know her stuff. Because there's some people, wherever you go, you're always going to have haters, my sister. And it's possibly somebody out there thinking maybe a brother put her on. She don't know all that stuff. So I'm going to put you to the test, as it were. I'm going to ask you some right questions. Based on what you know of the Bible, where in the Bible would you go to talk about the tree being pagan, Christmas tree itself?
Okay, now that's a tough one for me, only because I really rather. Okay, I'm just going to answer it. It's in Jeremiah.
All right, in the book of
And,
Jeremiah.
we'll sidebar on the other thing. I don't want to talk about it now, but yeah, Jeremiah.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, she's talking about Jeremiah chapter 10. And these are things that people must be aware of because the onlookers who are outside of religious settings or outside of the Bible, they say all that stuff is fake, just like the Bible. Christmas is fake and the Bible is fake. Well, obviously, we disagree that the Bible is fake, but we definitely agree with you that Christmas is fake. But here's the irony and the hypocrisy in it all, my. You know, there's a lot of people who claim to be conscious that are going to be spending hundreds of dollars this Christmas and have been spending hundreds of dollars for many Christmas.
Mm.
And I think that's a shame because we teach in the community today. When I say we, I don't mean me, but I always say we because I know that we are a family, regardless of our different opinions. But there are many factions within our greater community that, while teaching against the Bible on the one hand, they're about to celebrate Christmas in a couple weeks.
Mm.
What do you say about that, my sister? Because I'm pretty sure you're aware of the hate that the Israelite doctrine gets online from various factions. What do you say about some of those same factions that show such great disdain and hate for the Bible and come around Christmas time? Those are going to be the people who spend their last dollar to buy Christmas gifts. How do you feel about that? What's your thoughts on that?
I find it hard to believe. I personally don't know anyone, but I believe you when you say it. But I find it extremely hard to believe, especially people who are teaching this word. No way they're doing that. Like,
Mhm.
are you really
Yes,
saying
it's crazy. I mean,
that? Like, and if they are, I'm just
listen,
gonna
man.
say shame.
Listen, I consider myself a man of honor. And so, for various reasons, I won't call out names, but I'll tell you this: you'd be surprised how many people in the conscious community that I can tell you for a fact I know, celebrate Christmas. And it's
Like
a shame.
well-known people,
Some of these people are well known. Absolutely, some of these people are well known.
Black Hebrew Israelites.
No, I don't know any Hebrew Israelite that celebrates Christmas, but I'm
Oh,
sure
okay.
there's somebody that does because
Yeah,
we got fakers among us too.
that's
We're
true.
gonna talk the truth. This is truth hour here. This podcast is gonna be a little different because we're gonna definitely keep it real. We're not gonna front. So I'm sure you got Hebrew Israelites that try to hide their fringes when they go inside the stores to buy their Christmas gifts too. I'm sure that exists. But for those of us who are strong, for those of us who are not weekend warriors, we're not Israelites because it's the Sabbath. We're Israelites because it's our bloodline and we believe in this. And we are living it. We are embodying it. We are walking it. We are breathing it, right? And we are producing children of the future who will be a product of it as well. So, I want to take some questions from the audience right now because I'm sure there's some people that are listening that have some questions. I want to remind the family too. Thumb up the video, family, please. Thumb up the video. We're not going to have our sister for too much longer on the channel. We're not about to be here for 3 hours on this topic. So please, if you have any questions for the sister, please immediately let us know. For those of you who have my number, you actually can call in live if you want. Calling live. My next show, I'll actually share a number that's more public that anybody can call. But for now, I'm going to reserve that for people that know me. So if you know me, you actually can call me and you can get your question raised live. For everyone else, please, please, please ask your question in the chat room. So we're going to be looking at the chat room to see if anybody has any questions for our sister before she leaves.
Can I say something really quickly while we're waiting?
Please do. Please do.
I just feel a little uneasy about something that I said. And since this is live, we can't go back and edit it.
Okay.
When you asked about people who inbox me and say things, I said that was weird, and I didn't mean it in a negative way, like, well, that's weird, you're weirdos. I mean it like it makes me feel weird. I don't like to receive like praise and any kind of things like that. I didn't do anything special. Like I made some new discovery. I literally just repeated the information that any of us could repeat if we were on that show. So when people, inbox me with such reverence, I makes me feel uncomfortable. So I did want to change that. Not that I'm not saying that you guys are weird if you do that. I'm just saying it makes me feel weird, and I would really like not have it because, it's not about me. We all know this, So it's not like I know anything special just for repeating what we all know.
Well, I think that says a lot about you. I think it shows your sincerity that it actually was on your heart to make such a statement. I don't think a lot of people even caught it, but the fact that you did to me shows your sincerity and your level of appreciation for your people. So I definitely applaud that and I thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for our sister before we go? All right, check the chat room. Don't forget, family, thumb up the video, share the video, like, subscribe. I appreciate that. We have a lot of more interviews coming up. This Sunday, I'll be interviewing a brother who is an Igbo historian and lawyer. His name is Remy Ilona. He comes to us all the way from Nigeria. He's been in America over 3 years. He lives in California. I'll be interviewing him on the origins of Igbo ancestry as it's connected to the ancient biblical Israelites. He'll also be talking about the connection that he knows as a West African about other West Africans on the continent that are practicing Israelites and have been so long before slavery. So, in the conscious community, they asked us the question, how do we know that we were Israelites in Africa? I got a brother from Africa this Sunday that's going to let you know that very same question. So stay in tune. We got some powerful interviews lined up in the next coming week. The brother said, how would you explain this to a child? Great question.
That is a good question.
People have children. Even Dr. Phil tried you on that one, but
he did.
You did job. So for the people who say, all right, sister, I'm going to need you to lower your voice because my child's here. And I don't want you to spoil Christmas for my child. How do you speak to people with enough sincerity and respect, but at the same point, you want to get your point across? How do you reach those people? Because sometimes I think in sharing information, I think most people have a horrible way of sharing information, right? And what I mean by that is, yes, the word has to get out, but you have to be sensitive to others. Now, I know Israelites don't want to hear that. The Bible said, cry aloud and spare not. Show them the rod, beat them on the head. They can take it. For the rest of us, I want to say, there's a time and a place for all things. So there might be a time and a place for that, but for most times and in most places, you want to behave with a little bit more tact. So how do you reach that person who has children? How do you make this message palpable even for a child to understand?
Yeah, that I'm probably everything you said.
But I'm aware there's no perfect answer for that. We just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just shaking my head because you probably explained like what you said before about how we are. Hit them on the head. That's just how I roll. Like, it may be the residual UPK left in me, but I go hard. Like, so I don't try to dumb it up. I just, when I'm talking to children, I just leave out the whole child. Well, I don't leave that out. I leave out anything sexual, but I do say they kill babies on this day. Santa Claus is dead. He's not real. And that might not be right because I remember my daughter, she's in kindergarten and the teacher called me and said, your daughter's telling everyone that Santa Claus has died. So I learned as time went on that we can't just blurt that out like that, because kids will repeat it. And, my family will call me, my 8-year-old is saying this. So I'm like, okay, I don't have a way to dumb it down. I just don't use the cuss words. I don't use the sexual part of it. And, I was just trying to tell them, like, it's all a lie. If you do this, you're worshiping the devil. I don't, and this is with everything. People say I talk to my children like they're grown. Um, I just speak like I'm speaking to everyone else. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think children can handle it. My daughter turned out fine. And she was the first one to be my experiment on it. So,
I totally agree with you. On that note, I totally agree with you. I think that we take a lot of credit away from these children. I think children are far more intelligent than we give them credit for. And I definitely want to this. Our children are far more stronger than we give them credit for. Give them children the truth. Give them babies the truth. And don't hold back. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be a sad person if you realize at some point in your life that your children are into any and everything because you did not put your foot down to speak on what was right. Now, that doesn't mean that you force your children into things, but your children, it shouldn't be a shock to your children that these things are wrong. Your children should not be able to go on YouTube or be at somebody's lecture years from now and hear that something is wrong that you never told them. And in fact, you know it was wrong. Maybe you even known for telling people it's wrong, but you never told your own kids. Saving the planet begins with saving your home.
mhm, that's
That's where it
absolutely.
begins. What they say with charity. Real charity begins in the home first. So we can't go out and be Superman and Superwoman to the world, and we are not heroes in our household. So your children's first education has to come from you. My children know that these things are wrong because we tell them it's wrong. Period.
And they
You
do.
know, they have a strong enough foundation that's able to aid them, that's able to guide them with that. And that's how it should be for all households. Now, obviously, because people are different, their level of tact is going to be a different, and their approach is going to be different. But the message still has to be delivered. The message still has to be delivered. A brother asked a question. The question is, mm, okay. Jason Holmes said, "Why does the sister feel that people who know this truth still hold on to the rituals?" I'm not sure what that means, but that's what they
Yeah,
said.
I think what he's saying is like we know the truth, but we still continue to do it.
Right.
And I do think that's a great question, and I personally experienced this myself, but I just know that I had to overcome it. We're used to this. It evokes nostalgia, reminds you of your granny's sweet potato pie. It reminds you of feeling good. You've done it for 30, 40 years of your life, 20 years of your life. You envisioned on how you were going to do it with your children, all of that. And then for someone to just sweep that under the rug, now you hear Christmas songs. I'm not going to lie, when I hear Christmas music, I get that nostalgic feeling, but I just know I'm not going to indulge. And some people just don't have that strength, or maybe I just don't feel like they have that strength. They hold on to family traditions. Some people can't stand against their family. I've always been one to be the awkward one in my family. So this was expected of me eventually to come out with something like this, like different than everyone else, because everyone else is Christian. So it's not easy for everyone. You got people got big families, they're close. Everyone is not bold enough or strong enough to stand on their own and say, I'm not going to do that. So they continue to. But all I can say to them is just continue to pray for the willpower to stop, and repent in the meantime until you can get it.
All right, I totally agree with you on that. Let me see. Our sister Lexi, Lexandriana Sonia says, influence in your home before you try to influence people on the outside. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, there's a lot of people that put on Superman's outfit, Superman's cape when they leave their home. But in their home, they Clark Kent. No, you got to be Superman at all times. In the words of this era, we're gonna need you to keep the same energy you do in the streets with your family at home because that's where the salvation begins. There's a lot of great leaders, male and female, that arise in those leaders' families because those leaders were so involved with saving, they forgot that they had a family on the inside. So if you look at the walk of of past and even of present, a lot of their children, their lives that they live are in perfect contradiction to what the parent taught
Mm.
and what the parent was known for standing up for or standing up against. So again, that goes to show that while we have a strong desire to want to repair the world and repair the breach by speaking truth, we got to remember that that reparation begins in your household. So you got to teach your children. And I want to tell you guys in real time, even I'm guilty of, and being being extremely honest. Even I'm guilty of that. And I've been around in the Israelite community for 26 years. But as of recently, I've said to myself that not only is it embarrassing for me to have children of significant age and people encounter them, and when they encounter my children, people are going to be like, that's Zion Lexx child. That means that child probably speak fluent Hebrew. That child know hieroglyphs. That child know all kinds of history. And my child know a lot about TikTok and YouTube. So in the last couple of years, I've been more active in trying to guide them and inspire them in the lane that I am proficient in. Because the last thing I want to have is that I leave this earth and I have not set up enough continuity where my children can pick up the mantle and go further. And I think that's where some, not all, that's where some past leaders may have dropped the ball. There's not enough teaching in the household to pass the mantle and allow for genuine continuity of the legacy. The legacy cannot continue until the next generation adds their mark and adds their stamp. But they can't add their stamp nor their mark if we're not fueling them with what they need to go out there and do the work. All right. So I want to ask, does anybody else again have any questions for our sister? Because we're about to wrap this up in another 5 to 10 minutes top. Elder Morris says, you must speak the truth to your children. That's where it starts. I did. They are 50s, 40s, 30 years now. No regrets. Well, shout out to you, Elder Morris.
That's right.
Shout out to you. Shout out to you. That says a lot, man. Mind of Joshua says, we can give out the information, but it is our job to police the world and people outside our household on if they should celebrate it. That's a question. He says, we can give out the information, but is it our job to police the world and people outside our household if they should celebrate it? That's a good question, sister.
It is.
What about the people who feel like, well, you know what, sister, I've done enough. My house knows what this is. I don't feel compelled. I don't feel that I have to go beyond my household. What do you feel about that? Do you agree with people like that? Do you disagree? Why?
This is my own personal opinion because I don't really feel comfortable like advising a man on what he should do. But
Okay.
this is, my personal opinion and of what it is, not necessarily giving him instruction. But I would say everyone has their own separate function. Not everyone is out here to be teachers, or the fighters. Some people do different things, but in my personal opinion, you're held accountable if you know something and you don't warn them. That doesn't mean badgering them all the time, but I think they were supposed to be a light to the world. If we don't tell them, who will?
I appreciate that, sister, and that's absolutely true. So for the brother who asked the question, I want to say to you, for some people, no, that's not their job. Everybody is different. Some of us are so ignited on the inside as well as the outside by the fire that burns within that tells us that we must speak this truth, we must deliver this truth, that for us the saving doesn't end with our household. We got to go out and share it with the world. That's some people. But then there's others that they've done their job so long as they are able to bring the next generation, which begins with their family. And that's fine. So I want to say that there's a dichotomy that we must respect. There's always going to be people that are only strong enough to lead their household, but it's towards that mighty of a man and that mighty of a woman that can be so strong that not only are they heroes in the home, but they're heroes outside of the home. And for those people, that's a name and that's a memory that will always be blessed. And you have to respect that. And we have to learn how to support people in those endeavors. Let me ask you this question as one of my questions to kind of bring this to closure. So if not Christmas, what do we have? There's some people that are probably going to ask you, well, what about Hanukkah?
Um, yeah, well, like you mentioned, the brother said all of our holy days is listed in the Bible of what we can and cannot, or what we can do. Um, some people don't believe we need to do any of them, but if you want to cleave to something, at least cleave to the traditions of our ancestors.
I agree with that answer wholeheartedly. Even for those that may disagree with Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is not one of those holy days mentioned in the Bible. It's an occurrence that takes place during a very, very trying time for us during the Maccabean period. And it was a day that was instituted by man. So by proxy, there's a significant amount of Israelites that feel like we don't have to keep it, which is true. It's not ordained by God, so you don't have to keep it. But let's keep it real. A lot of y'all was observing Black Friday all the way. You don't have to do that either. So if we're going to respect anything, me, speaking for me and me only, I would first respect the traditions of my ancestors.
That's right.
That's what I would do. I would respect the tradition of my ancestors. And obviously, I'm speaking to the Israelite community when I say that because other communities have different traditions, and that's okay. That's what y'all believe. But for us, as in the words of Joshua, as for me and my household, we come to serve the Lord. Period.
Amen.
Period. So if anyone wants to reach you on social media, how would we reach out to you on social media? Where are you on social media, first and foremost?
Well, I'm on all platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But I typically use Facebook the most. You can find me at Shelita Gaskins. Instagram's my second most used. You can find me at Princess Judah 215. And I don't remember my other ones because I don't use them that often.
Are you open to any questions coming to your email? If anyone wanted to email you?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. Yep, and get my phone number too. You can give me a call as well.
What's your email?
Maybe I shouldn't give my number because people like to call.
Yeah.
Be weird.
I'll be careful with that one. Yeah. What's the email?
So my email is Slyn Gaskins. So that's SLYNNGASKINS @gmail.com. SLYNNGASKINS @gmail.com.
I'm gonna put that in the YouTube chat right now. I want to say this, my sister. It's not easy to get up and speak in defense, and with great honor at that, when it comes to speaking for our people and our truth. I also noticed that you seem to be a very humble sister. So I'm sure that if I was to ask you, and I'm not going to ask you, but I'm sure if I was to ask you, you're going to say no. But family, I would like you guys to show your appreciation to our sister by hitting up her Cash App or her PayPal. I want you to show our sister that you appreciate the information that she has shared, the boldness, the courage that it took to take that stand. A lot of us in the community, we are so supportive of any and everything but our own. In our sister's humility, she is absolutely going to say, no, don't send nothing, don't send nothing. But we got to be so gung ho about doing for those that take a stand that respectfully, even if they decline, we still want to come out of pocket. So I'm going to ask you, my sister, if you can, could you share with us your Cash App? That way I can put it in the chat, and I'm also going to put it on my social media.
Yeah. Well, my Cash App is Cash App with the $sign is the Talton THE.
Oh, be very slow and spell it again.
Sure. THE TALTEN. The Talton.
And that's our Cash App, family. Please, moderators, can y'all share that so that everybody can see that? Please share that. If anyone has any appreciation for the stand that our sister took, I mean, family, for those of you who've seen that video live on Dr. Phil, you know it was not easy to watch. In fact, we're going to segue and watch some of it. So we're actually going to do that right now. Right? We're going to watch a little bit of that video right now. So just give me a second. second, sister, to get that video rolling. And we're going to play that video right now live. Here we go.
Holiday, any holiday. Now, several years ago, she decided that they were just excuses to spend money. She doesn't understand why her family just won't accept her choice.
Dear Dr. Phil, my family is so mad at me about my views on certain holidays. I am tired of defending my stance on not celebrating Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, and Halloween with family, especially my sister here. 8 years ago, I realized the truth behind these hell days. And now my family ridicules me about my choice not to celebrate or let my 6-year-old daughter celebrate either. First of all, according to my research, Christmas is a pagan holiday. Jesus wasn't even born on the 25th of December. Easter is another pagan holiday. Thanksgiving, great. Let's celebrate the slaughter of Native Americans. Valentine's Day is a purely sexual holiday, and Halloween is worship a new day. Christ would really appreciate that. I have no problem with documenting holidays like Hanukkah, but these other make me sick. I get sick to my stomach when I see decorations or have people wish me a happy this or a merry day. I wish more people would realize the truth. Dr. Phil, can you please help my sister understand that not celebrating these holidays is my choice? Bye, humble.
All right, now we have Shelita's sister, Akia, on the phone, and she totally disagrees with her sister's views. Okay, so what do you think's going on here? I'm going to ask you in a minute, but tell me what you think's going on here.
I think she's getting cheap because if you got her still accepted, if she was so into not being celebrating Christmas, she would turn it down, or she would tell me no, my daughter can't come over your house to spend a pagan holiday with. No, I'm broke. I'm not cheap. And if I had the money and I celebrated it, I would live like it. But even if I had $1 million, because I don't celebrate Christmas, I'm not going to buy anybody anything. You're so legal and not celebrating it. Why do you have to come over to my house to celebrate? There was one day, one time, because he asked me, and I felt bad, so I let it go that one time. You do it again this Christmas. You don't know that.
What's your problem with holidays, for example? You said you got your daughter and you told her the truth about Christmas.
And my nephews, I'm they were children too.
Yeah, you got in between other children and their parents.
They actually is.
You know, and so what is the truth?
Well, okay, I just want to be faithful to holidays, and I found out that Christmas has nothing to do with Christmas at all. It's all about the worshiping of the sun god. During the time when Constantine was converting from pagans to Christians, the pagans didn't want to let go of their celebration, so what they did, they compromised, they married the two. They took pagan festivals and Christian doctrine and put them together.
That was in the fourth century.
But it doesn't matter because if we lived during the first century and we call ourselves Christians, like the early Christians did, it was not a celebration.
So let me tell you what I think the truth is about Christmas. Do I think it's about a fat man running around the world dropping off toys? No, I got that busted for me last year. But can't you let your children enjoy the festivities of the holidays, the music, the spirit of kind of giving and family and being?
All right, I want to stop it right there for now. I want to say this is the slick part of the video where he started to get real slick, right? He said, can't you just, allow it for the kids? I understand that it's pagan. I understand that it's wrong. But what about the kids? I want the family to listen to how our sister skillfully combated exactly what he just said.
It doesn't have to be whether it's a pagan origin or a Christian origin or there's a real Santa Claus or you believe it was Christ's birthday or whatever. I mean, can you not find a way to fold this into the current world?
Absolutely not. Because to me, it's a form of
way, y'all, I just gotta say this for the record. Y'all better give a shout out to what they say, black don't crack. This is 14, 16 years ago. This look like the same person. Y'all better put some thumbs up in the room.
Encyclopedia Britannica, looking up Valentine's Day, and it'll tell you everything. This is not my opinion; these are facts. And if Christ was around, he would completely disagree with all these celebrations.
But do you believe that these holidays are what we name them to be for ourselves?
No,
I mean, they can become totally dominated by the marketing machine and become completely commercialized, or they can be religious observances, or they can be family observances where you ritualistically get together and share time. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be one definition or this definition or this definition. I don't believe in like over commercializing Christmas. I don't believe that it has to be just a religious observance. I think there are a lot of different ways that we can just define these for ourselves.
Well, but it is a religious observance, and I like to say that you can't turn us into pudding. You can't change something into a good thing because it was never intended that way.
Okay, let me ask you this: if I get together with my family this Christmas, my 82-year-old mother comes here and spends the holidays with us, and our children who are grown and outside the home come and spend rare time with their parents, and we have a nice meal and watch football games. You're saying that's a us-filled holiday?
Yes, I think that those who understand the meaning of the true meaning of Christmas and continue to do it, you're going to get souls going to be judged. This is going out to the people who are afraid during Judgment Day, who are afraid to be sent to the hellfire. If you're just a regular, if you're atheist, if you're just doing it for tradition, then I'm not talking to you. Because of the preachers, those who have a religious responsibility to lead the people, and I don't believe that they are leading the people correctly.
I just totally, blatantly disagree.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that as a child that I didn't enjoy these things because I did, and I couldn't wait to get older to pass it on to my children. But I got to stand up for righteousness. What's more important, the happiness of my child or maybe God has?
Well, are you religious?
Damn. Woo! What's more important? What's more important? Because remember, when we talk about children, the mind of a child is a sponge. They saturate and soak up everything. As we become adults, our mind becomes more like a sieve where we can sift out the bad and keep that which is good. What does that mean for adults? You have to be a curator of a child's mind as an adult. You have to actually police your child's mind to a certain extent. And I know that sounds crazy to some people to use that terminology, but in an era like today, you have to. In many states right now, you send your child to the bathroom while let's say you're with your family and you're watching a movie at a movie theater. And one of your children say, I got to go to the bathroom. They come back from the bathroom and they say, ooh, mommy, a man was in there with me. And this is your daughter. And you mean which day? And you find out that in some of these movie theaters, in some of these malls, in a lot of these bathrooms, the bathrooms are no longer gender specific. Everybody can go in the same bathroom now. So you have to be on your A game. Parents, you are responsible for your children in all cases at all times. So I want you guys to look at this video and watch as a woman among us stood as a warrior, because Dr. Phil has all the accolades in the world that you can imagine. But our sister stood on 10 toes to speak her truth, and she is well respected. Well respected.
Are you wicked and ruined because you celebrate others' time?
Well, no, because that wasn't something I did.
Well,
I
you're
didn't
not
know.
going to be wicked and ruined if you were allowed to celebrate stuff.
Well, no, because as a child, you're not even responsible for your parents. Once you get older and have an understanding, it's your duty to do what's right. Everything that's fun isn't right.
And you have the choice because you're the mother and you can do what you want with time. But I would really hope that you would kind of take a deep breath and ask yourself if there is a way for you to define some experiences for your child so that they don't miss the joy and festivity told that you would try to find a way that your daughter wasn't excluded from a lot of the joy of life that she might miss because of that position.
We celebrate New Year's, that's just fun, you know?
So let me stop it right there because primetime television, there's a psychological element to that as well. You can have an audience applaud something that's totally wrong. Her response to what they applauded actually killed and trumped everything that they said. So I think our sister is due an applause of her own. They tried it.
We can do that, there's no religious significance behind that, so.
Well, there are religious stipulations behind what you put the religious stipulations. So that's up to you. Okay. All right, next, for most people.
All right, we're going to end that video there. Again, family, I'm going to thank everybody for coming out. And thank you all for being here with us. I'm sure that we're going to have our sister back at some time for her to discuss some new things with us and drop some more information on us. My sister, it was a pleasure to have you. You know, what you did was inspirational to many. I want to say, especially to women out there, because sometimes in the community, you know, women want to be able to fit in. Women want to be able to contribute. And I think that you showed that a woman of knowledge, that a woman of skill, and a woman of tact can actually stand strong, and she can teach. Sister, with all due respect, you stood as a teacher, as a warrior, as what our tradition would call a woman of valor, sometimes called a virtuous woman, but I want to say a woman of valor. So I take my hat off to you, sister. I say shalom to you. I say salute to you. And to the family, again, does anybody have any more questions before we let our sister go and enjoy her evening with her family?
Can I mention something while we're waiting?
Please do.
In the video, you might not have heard it because it was a little distorted. I did say at the end that, well, we celebrate New Year's. There's no religious stipulations behind that, and that's pretty fun. I did want to say on record that the following year, I learned that New Year's was unacceptable as well, and let that go.
Right, Janet, right. Absolutely. And I appreciate you for saying that, my sister. You did a great job. I really appreciate you. I can't wait to have you back on other topics, to have you weigh in on the community. I actually have a bill coming up with a group of sisters. I'm going to have a round table with some very strong women, and I want to include you in that round table. And
I will be honored.
You know, the elements of what the discussion and topic will be with you very soon. But I thank you very much. I say shalom to you. Thank you to the listening audience, and